Released November 12, 2022 for the Quest 2 by developer Digital Load and publisher Tripwire presents Espire 2, the follow-up to 2019's Espire 1 VR operative, failed to impress me. Now, I won't say it disappointed me, as disappointments come from unrealistically high expectations. I had none of these, regardless of the hype surrounding this before release. But to be quite honest, I don't get why any of these YouTubers were excited in the first place. Most of them were the ones disappointed when they realized Part 1 was no Splinter Cell VR. But I guess some people never learn. Thanks to the publishers for the review key.
Nothing. It's no good.
This review is really late. I got the key in November, but other than the fact that I really found playing through this a bit of a chore, there was an issue with many Quest 2 headsets for about 6 to 8 weeks that was only recently sorted, so I wasn't able to capture gameplay my preferred way. But we're good now, so here we go. The story of Espire 2 revolves around a terrorist group called Ophis, with plans of global domination. The story was uninteresting and a bit convoluted at the same time. There was never a point that I cared enough to make an attempt to figure it out.
General Bull, prisoner located. Kulama building rooftop.
Espire, it's really you. So glad you could join us. Now please, quit this fool's errand while you're ahead.
Perhaps persons who played Part 1 would have a better understanding, as references were made regarding your operative Poe and things that went down previously.
So, this is the infamous Poe.
But again, it all had this cheap B-movie tacked together feel to it, and was delivered in an equally lifeless way, a soulless way, that made me want to skip through it every time these people started talking.
Sorry.
And this may be due to the fact that lifeless and soulless is the best way I could describe this game's entire presentation. It's been a while since I had to drudge through a campaign like this. I only played it all the way through because of this review. I really don't believe in taking people's games, playing it for an hour then giving it a bad review simply because I'm personally not feeling it. I much prefer to play it through to the best of my ability, in search of redeeming factors. I'm sad to report, all the way to the end credits I found none. Not for the story or anything else here.
No!
Now, I'm not going to go into great detail regarding the story, as I've seen reviews of this game before, and everyone else seems to be cool with it, so maybe you watching may feel the same, so I won't spoil it for you.
Roger that.
The visuals. As most know by now, the Quest 2 is no powerhouse. It's like the Switch of VR, so no Quest 2 game really looks spectacular, regardless of what you may have heard some overly zealous reviewers say. Some games are visually impressive based on what devs have to work with, but just know, if a title is released on the Quest 2 and PC VR and you're in a position to get the PC VR version, go there. With that out of the way, I still have to say, I've seen many other Quest 2 games which look a lot better than this. And this is what I meant when I said the entire presentation of Espire 2 just feels soulless, kinda like Zero Caliber. The visuals here are not impressive, not by a long shot. The environments are so bland, and this isn't because most of this game takes place in these generic looking buildings. Even when outdoors, these environments are no lookers. Some do look better than others, but nothing that's gonna make you stop and take in the sights. The gun models also look bland and generic. And these cutscenes between missions are so bad, and further sucked any potential life the story might have had. I would have preferred they used hand-drawn still images to convey the story than this. Even the animations of these people you're looking at and listening to looks so bad.
Trust me, we've tried everything and everyone.
Most of the story is told through these intermission-styled segments, and I just really wished Digital Load put more effort into them. It just adds to the blandness.
Of course.
I'm getting to the gameplay in a second, but I'll just say it now, because I feel compelled to.
It's too soon for that.
Espire 2 is just one really boring game, story, visuals and all. Onto the sound.
Ophis are so close to launching. We need to stop them for good. Get to that laptop.
The score is fine, I have no complaints here. In my not so humble opinion, I have to say it's fitting and suitable. I'm no musical connoisseur, so my standards are perhaps lower than they should be. But for this kind of game, the whole MIA 007 thing, I see no wrong here with the music.
Sooty condition critical.
The sound effects are also quite fitting. No complaints there either. Well, actually, I do have an issue with some missing sound effects, but I'll get to that later. Also, the repetitive lines by the guards got old real fast. That whistling. It's like an army of clones. Hearing the brain-dead AI say the same handful of lines over and over is one thing, but that tune they kept whistling, it really got under my skin. The voice acting gets a pass. This here is some B-grade Prime Video voice acting, yeah? But suitable. And yes, I know Prime Video has a lot of AAA movies, series, and actors. But when I want my B-movie fix, which are my preferred movies to be honest, I go to Prime Video, not Netflix and their cookie-cutter Hollywood trash.
Tail, escort Lima 3 Tango to drop-off point Zeta. Drones are being deployed to keep Espire busy.
Now let me talk gameplay. This is what sealed the deal for me. This is what confirmed Espire 2 to be flatter than a pancake, the soullessness I mentioned earlier.
Good God.
On startup, we've got various settings here to customize this VR experience to the likings of all kinds of players. There's a single-player campaign, which is where I spent most of my days. And then we have multiplayer, which I was unable to get into, but I suspect this is where I'd go for some co-op gameplay. I highly doubt there's PvP here, but like I said, I was unable to check this out. But it does say multiplayer campaign, so I suspect that's all there is to it, which may be fun if two like-minded persons who actually like this game got a session going. There are two difficulty options, normal or story. I played on normal, but it left me to wonder how easy story mode would have been, as normal was really easy. I'll elaborate in a minute. We have a cheats section. You unlock these cheats as you play through the levels, and I guess this is just there for shits and giggles, as the caveat here is, you can use these cheats, but you won't be able to save your progress. So basically, playing with these cheats don't count, but they're there if you're into that kind of thing. I guess this adds some replay value.
Strike team inbound.
The whole gimmick to Espire 2, which also ties into the title, is you're able to remotely control two Espire units, one called Cinder and the other Sooty.
This is the possession menu. Use this at any time to possess a new frame from an active cradle.
At first, the only way to do this is to look out for Espire crates throughout the levels, which also act as checkpoints. Each unit has what the game considers advantages, but I didn't see it that way. To have separate units seemed unnecessary and nothing more than a weak gimmick.
Our only way to Hotel Aladar is beyond that ventilation fan, but Cinder won't be able to get past it. Head for the backup cradle.
There were vents that only the smaller unit could go through, and then there were variations in the gadgets both used, but it all seemed superfluous and forced. Unless I was forced to, which is how it went down in the first couple of levels, I would just use Cinder, the larger unit.
Hey, idiot.
The smaller unit had this device called a noisemaker, but again, just a gimmick, which I never found myself needing. You could fire this noisemaker onto a surface, then speak into it to distract enemies. But this was just silly. And I never found myself in a position where it was particularly useful. And the worst part is, it didn't even seem to work most times.
Assholes. This clearly doesn't fucking work.
Much like the ability to use voice commands to stick up a guard, I went through the entire game without ever having a need to use this gimmick. And I never used it once outside the tutorial. And this was a constant throughout Espire 2. There were these gimmicks, these silly gadgets, and the encouragement to use stealth. But I found the entire time playing that it was all for show.
Hold the B button to activate the Sooty unit's Espire instinct.
There were also these Espire abilities that allowed you to slow time, and I'm not even certain what the other did. Maybe made you move faster, which felt like 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Charge depleted.
There were times when I got bored and simply ran through a level straight to the checkpoint or the end, and there were really no consequences. All this stealth shit is simply for show.
Strike team inbound.
Deep breath, Poe. This is it.
One of the ways Espire 2 tries to force you into using stealth is through the guns. There is limited ammo and this silly drawn-out scanning mechanic where if you took a gun from an enemy, you'd have to do a biometric scan to be able to unlock it. This was such a cumbersome mechanic.
Biometric lock deactivated.
You also had to use it to heal yourself or to scan other things you came across, but it was such an annoying chore.
What are you doing? Stop that!
Like, who greenlit this mechanic? Who came up with this clunky nonsense? At what meeting did the devs decide that this would be cool or fun? It was so annoying.
Try to stay close to Bull's unit. You only have a few seconds to hack it once it goes down.
But yeah, my point is, you're encouraged to use stealth. But there really aren't any consequences for not doing so. You may be reprimanded at the end of a level with some harsh words, or have some points deducted. Points which I really didn't see the use for. It's not like I could have used them to buy anything. And if this was an oversight on my part, and I could actually use these points, I didn't. And the game was still a breeze. there was no point that I felt the need to buy anything. I mean, ammo and energy canisters are laying all about the levels, and if I ran out of ammo, the enemy AI was so bad that I could have easily just run or used melee. If you disabled a camera or took out a guard, you'd hear some generic sounding guy on the radio alerting backup, but you could easily dispatch to the backup any way you wanted, without consequence. You'd slaughter everyone who came at you, wait for a while, then hear the same guy say everything's good, call off the search. And I'm talking about a room strewn with dead bodies.
Find a way into this bunker, then follow the chute back to the missile.
We're calling off the search. Return to your posts.
You have the option to hide bodies in these cabinets or closets or whatever these are, but again, there was no need to. There are no real consequences for your actions in Espire 2. The game simply pretends they are, but it's just for show. Now remember, the main hook in Espire 2, much like games like Metal Gear, Splinter Cell, Tenchu and the like, is stealth. So far, if you've been paying attention, stealth really isn't that important here. But I'm not done. Here's one more thing that really got to me. We have no real stealth takedowns, no particular animations for a stealth kill or knockout. You can use the same scanner to stun enemies, or you can just swing your gun at them, and they will go down. But come on guys, this is supposed to be a stealth game, and there are no particular stealth takedowns. Even when using melee, there are no sound effects. You hit someone with your gun, and nothing. They don't make a sound, the impact makes no sound either. It just feels like you're swinging at air.
Ammunition depleted.
This is a huge misstep on the devs' part. How could these things have been approved? It just makes the game feel rushed and incomplete, and like I said a few times now, lifeless and soulless. This makes for one really bad game, guys. Come on. Then, there's a lot of clipping, and while holding an object to climb, like a ladder, it just looks bad. It does not look like you're actually holding on to something. Where weapons are concerned, you're able to select your loadouts at the shooting range. And here's the problem. You have to unlock the guns on the weapons rack. And in order to do so, you have to get a gun during a mission and hang on to it all the way to the end of a level to unlock it. Another questionable and clunky design choice. You can carry 3 guns, 2 sidearms on each side and a bigger gun on your chest. Now, if you were able to also take one on your back, that would be great. But so many times I found a gun or two that was not unlocked and wanted to take them with me to the end of a mission. Or if I entered the level with a rifle or shotgun equipped, I had to throw one away. I would try to hold on to a gun for as long as I could, but if I had to climb a ladder or a fence or something, I just had to leave it behind. It would have been so much better if the devs allowed you to either automatically unlock a gun on your rack once you did a biometric scan, or at least give you the option to store it in one of the crates you came across. But no, and if you died, you'd start back at the last crate. Sometimes you'd see the last frame you used still sitting there where you expired, but if you died more than once, that was it. It was nowhere to be found. You just have to suck it up. You lost that gun you had your eye on.
Attack that unit. They're close to breaking through and regaining control.
I think these points are used to buy guns. But then the question is, if I have to go through all this trouble to unlock a gun, why do I still have to pay for it? Questionable design choices to say the least. Espire 2 is also a bit buggy. Sometimes you'll see things like this. A guard running around with his hands in a position like he's holding a gun, but there's no gun. Then I experienced crashes. The first crash wouldn't allow the game to start up. It was just stuck on the loading screen, so I had to reinstall the game. When this happened the first time, I was sure I'd lose my saves, but I didn't. This was a good thing. But then it crashed again, and I was set back 2 stages. Under normal circumstances, like back in the day when I had the luxury of playing games just for fun, I just permanently parked this game. But whether I love a title given to me by developers or publishers, whether it's my kind of game or not, I'm a bit of a completionist in this regard. If I take your game, I'm committed to releasing a video of some kind for it. I guess that's integrity. So I powered through. I replayed the missing stages and saw this through to the end credits. At the end, there's a setup for a possible part 3.
But we can't pull you out. Not yet. I need you to keep at it. Eyes and Chow have left us in the dust, When the moment is right, we'll get you out of there.
But I'm not gonna say I'm sitting here biting my nails waiting for this. I did not have a good time with Espire 2. The entire experience came off as forced and fake. Very fake, and also unrefined. It feels very much like a stealth version of Zero Caliber, like the same guys made it. It has this, oh look, we made a stealth game in VR for you thirsty VR players looking for something new to sink your teeth into. In the same way Zero Caliber felt like it was simply pandering to VR players desperate for more first-person shooters and would take just about anything in the early stages of VR, which to be frank, I still think VR is in its infancy. But in the same way people flocked to Zero Caliber out of hunger and a desperation, calling it a good game when it clearly isn't, is the same way Espire 2 feels. It feels like the devs didn't believe they had to create a polished, truly complete stealth VR experience, because there's very little to compare it to, and thirsty gamers would grab onto anything and call it good, out of that hunger, that need for a Metal Gear or Splinter Cell in VR. But Espire 2 is no Splinter Cell, not by a long shot. All those reviewers who gave this game a pass proves my theory correct. I did not enjoy my time with Espire 2. I tried, I gave it a shot, but I'm not gonna sit here faking it like the others did. This game is not anywhere near where it should be.
Good God!
Thank you for watching. If you like my content, feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Let's say I found a way to piss you off with this one though. Then hey, the logical course of action will be to dislike, unsub, leave a fiery comment, or whatever it takes to make you feel vindicated. Either way, I won't hold it against you. Our game is never over.